By the time I realized my marriage was on fire, it wasn't from the flames. It was from the smoke I'd been pretending not to see. The night everything finally collapsed, I could trace every step back to one simple mistake. I trusted her more than I trusted what was right in front of me. My name is Matt Harper. I'm 38 years old, and until not too long ago, I would have told you I did marriage the right way. I design infrastructure for a living, bridges, overpasses, the systems that keep people moving. My days are load calculations, stress diagrams, worst-case scenarios. You don't guess with steel and concrete. You measure, you model, you test. You miss a pattern, people get hurt. So when I married Jenna, I brought that same logic into my life. I thought if we built on trust, respect, and space, the structure would hold. We met at the hospital, me visiting my brother after a motorcycle accident. Her in scrubs, tired eyes, and a calm voice that made the whole room feel less like a disaster. Jenna Harper, occupational therapist. Her job was to help people relearn how to move after the worst days of their lives. I watched her encourage my brother through basic movements that humiliated him, and she never flinched. I admired the hell out of that. The emotional weight she carried every shift. The stories she didn't tell in detail, but that sat on her shoulders when she came home late. So I made a rule for myself, don't add to that weight. If she came home quiet, I gave her space. If she said she was tired, I didn't ask for more than a kiss on the cheek and 20 minutes on the couch. When she needed weekends to decompress, I didn't push. I picked up extra chores, grabbed takeout, and told myself this was what grown-up love looked like. Two people trusting each other without clinging. For a long time, it felt solid. Then, a few months before everything blew up, the pattern changed. Started small. Her phone, which used to sit screen up on the coffee table, started living face down. Then it migrated with her, always in her pocket, always angled away when she scrolled. At dinner, the silence changed color. It wasn't the tired, heavy quiet of someone worn out from work. It was sharper, more distant. She'd chew slowly, stare past me at the window like there was something out there only she could see. "You okay?" I'd ask. "Yeah, just tired," she'd say, with a smile that didn't touch her eyes. She started sighing a lot. Not dramatic, just little leaks of air, like the life she wanted was somewhere 2 inches to the left of the life she had. I noticed all of it. The later nights at work, happy hours. The way she pulled her phone in closer when a notification popped up. The way her body was in the room, but her mind wasn't. And every time I did the same thing, I explained it away. Hospitals are brutal. Burnout is real. She sees people at their lowest all day. Of course she's fried. Of course she needs more alone time. Of course she's checked out sometimes. That was the story I chose because it lined up with the marriage I wanted to believe in. One where my wife was exhausted, not dishonest. My brain is built to see patterns. At work, I trust that instinct. In my marriage, I smothered it. I took every red flag, stapled stress on it, and filed it away. Looking back, that was the first crack in the bridge. Not the lies she told me later. The lies I told myself. It was a Monday in March, one of those Seattle mornings where the rain doesn't fall so much as hang in the air and soak you slowly. I was dressed for work, button down, slacks, boots by the door, when I found Jenna already at the kitchen table. Hair in a loose knot, robe wrapped tight, both hands around a mug like she was bracing for impact. She didn't look at me right away, just watched the coffee swirl. "I've been thinking," she said. "People say that it's harmless. It almost never is." "Yeah." I opened the fridge, grabbed the milk, more out of habit than hunger. "I need some time alone," she said. "Like real time. A week. Maybe more." I watched the side of her face. The muscles in her jaw were working, and she wouldn't meet my eyes. "Okay," I said slowly. "Alone how?" She inhaled, held it, then let it out like she was rehearsing mindfulness in her head. "I'm burned out, Matt. The hospital, the patients, the families. It's all just on me. I feel lost, disconnected. I need to get away and reset. Somewhere quiet. Just me. No expectations." Cannon Beach came out of her mouth like she'd been carrying it around for weeks. "I was thinking about that little resort we went to for our anniversary. she said. The one with the fireplace and the ocean right there. I keep picturing it. Just walking on the beach, not talking to anyone, turning my phone off for once. Just finding myself again. She finally looked at me then. Her eyes were wet, but not from crying. More like she was straining to hold something in place. If there's one button you can push on me, it's responsibility. She framed it like self-care, like survival. Like if I didn't help her do this, I'd be adding to the pile that was crushing her. So I did what I thought a good husband does. Then go, I said. Take the week. I'll handle everything here. She blinked, surprised I didn't argue. Maybe disappointed I didn't. By lunch, I'd booked the same boutique resort we'd loved years ago. Ocean view, king bed, the whole thing on my card. I forwarded her the confirmation with a dumb line. Go fix your brain, I'll hold down the fort. And she sent back a heart emoji and thank you. I really need this. On the morning she left, I made her eggs and toast, packed her suitcase, tucked an extra sweater inside because Cannon Beach in March doesn't care about your feelings. I kissed her at the door like I was sending her off to some healing retreat. Text me when you get there, I said. Of course, she answered, hugging me like she was already half gone. The first 2 days, the messages came in neat, surface-level bursts. Made it. The room's beautiful. Rainy but in a cozy way. Walking on the sand. Good to disconnect. Love you. No photos. No specific stories. Just the kind of generic travel brochure updates you give a coworker, not a husband. I walked through the house that suddenly felt too big and too quiet. Her shoes by the door. Her mug in the sink. The dent in the couch cushion where she usually sat. My brain nudged me. Something's off. I shoved it down. She's tired. She's healing. You wanted a wife with her own life, remember? This is what that looks like. Give her space. Don't be that guy. So I texted back encouragement, little jokes, and told her to enjoy every second. I went to work, came home, ate alone, and convinced myself the emptiness in the house was a good sign. The only thing I couldn't explain away was that morning at the table. The tired voice, the distant eyes, the way she'd said find myself, like she was already standing somewhere I couldn't follow. I felt the unease. I just chose not to name it. Day 3 of her finding herself trip, I was at my desk downtown, hunched over bridge plans, half my brain inside a shear force diagram. The office was its usual low buzz. Keyboards, phones, someone laughing too loud in the hallway. It was a safe noise. Predictable. My phone buzzed on the desk. Ryan Brooks. Ryan and I have been working together for 6 years. He doesn't call in the middle of the day unless something's on fire or stupid. I answered, still looking at my screen. What's up? His voice came through tight. Man, I need to show you something. I didn't feel anything yet. I was expecting some memes, a bad Photoshop of our boss, something to break up in the afternoon. Okay? I'm texting it now, he said. Just don't freak out, all right? That's when my stomach tightened. Just a little. Not dropping, just bracing. A text notification slid down from the top of my phone. From Ryan. I tapped it. The image filled the screen, and everything in me went very, very still. Jenna. Standing in front of the resort at Cannon Beach. Same wooden beams. Same stone entryway we'd posed under for our anniversary selfie years back. She was wearing the blue sweater I'd bought her for Christmas. The one she'd almost left behind until I reminded her it gets cold on the coast. She wasn't alone. There was a man with her. Tall, clean-cut, expensive casual clothes. His arm was around her waist. Not casually but like it belonged there. Her body leaned into his. Their faces too close for just friends. Both of them smiling the way people smile when they think the world isn't watching. I zoomed in. Her eyes were soft, happy, present in a way they hadn't been with me for months. For a second, my brain refused to assign meaning. It just collected data. Position, posture, distance, contact. Below the photo was a username I didn't know and the faint text, posted to their story. A geotag, Cannon Beach Resort and Spa. Timestamp, 2 hours earlier. Another text from Ryan popped up under the image. My cousin is staying there. She posted this to her story. I recognized Jenna. I'm sorry, man. I stared at the screen, feeling my thoughts rearrange themselves. Work happy hours. Phone face down. The tilted screen. The dead-eyed dinners. The sudden need for solitude in the exact place we once went to celebrate us. In my world, structures fail for a reason. Missed stress, ignored fatigue, small cracks adding up until the collapse isn't personal, it's physics. Looking at that photo, I had the same realization. This wasn't a feeling anymore. This was evidence. I waited for rage, for yelling, for something explosive. It didn't come. What came instead was a clean, sharp line in my head. Whatever this is, it's not a misunderstanding. Denial wasn't just unlikely now. It was mathematically impossible. Once I saw that photo, the decision didn't take shape slowly. It was just there. I locked my phone, saved the file to my head, and looked at the structural plans on my screen. Numbers, lines, forces. All of it felt irrelevant next to the load that had just dropped onto my life. I closed the laptop at 3:45 p.m. exactly. I stood up, walked to my supervisor's office, knocked once, and opened the door. "Hey, I've got a family emergency," I said. "I need to leave town tonight. I'll remote in when I can." He frowned, concerned, ready with questions. I kept my face neutral. "Everything okay?" "Not yet," I said. "But it will be." He nodded, because what else do you do when a man says that? I took the elevator down, my body on autopilot. Badge out, lobby, revolving door, rain. The air outside hit me cold and wet, but inside I was numb. Not dazed, not spinning, just narrowed. I booked a one-way ticket to Portland from my phone on the sidewalk. Nearest flight. No checked bags. I walked into the airport with a backpack and a roll of tension between my shoulder blades. On the plane, I didn't cry, didn't drink, didn't stare blankly at the seat in front of me. I pulled up the photo again and again, studying it like it was a failed beam detail. His hand placement, her body language, the ease. I wasn't imagining a confrontation. I wasn't scripting speeches. I just kept thinking, verify, see it yourself. No more guessing. Landing in Portland, I rented the first car they had, compact, forgettable. I pointed it west and drove Highway 26 toward the coast. The sky darkened. The wipers beat a steady rhythm across the windshield. The road unwound in front of me, familiar in that Pacific Northwest way. Evergreens, fog, the smell of wet earth. I felt calm. Too calm, maybe. No yelling into the steering wheel, no punching anything. Just a tight, cold resolve. By 9:15 p.m., I was turning into the resort parking lot. It looked exactly like my memory. Warm lights against the dark, wood and stone. The sound of the ocean somewhere beyond the buildings. Parked. Sit there for a moment. My hands were steady on the wheel. Inside, I went straight to the front desk. "Evening. How can I help you?" the receptionist asked, polite, bored. "My name is Matt Harper," I said. "I booked a room here for my wife, Jenna Harper. Room 217. I'm surprised by her. Can you add me to the reservation and leave a key for me?" Her eyebrows lifted. "Do you have the card you used to book it?" I slid it across the counter. It matched the one on file. I watched her screen, watched her hesitation. Kept my voice light. I figured I'd drive down and surprise her with a visit. Anniversary thing. Humans like romance. They like stories where husbands show up for their wives. After a beat, she smiled. "I can print an extra key for you. Here you go, Mr. Harper." The plastic was warm from the machine when it hit my palm. I thanked her, turned away, and walked toward the stairs. Halfway up, my heart finally misstepped. A stutter behind my ribs. Key in my pocket, truth somewhere above me. I told myself there might still be an innocent explanation. But under that, quieter and harder, something in me had already accepted the answer. I stepped out of the stairwell into the second-floor hallway, the carpet swallowing my footsteps. Room 217 was to the right. I could see the brass numbers down the corridor, the path already laid out. That's when I heard it. Her laugh, muffled at first, then clearer as I moved toward the balcony that overlooked the lobby and restaurant. I'd know that sound in a crowd of 1,000. Jenna's laugh when she wanted someone to feel like the funniest man in the room. The keycard in my pocket suddenly felt pointless. I followed the sound instead. The restaurant was warm and low-lit, all wood, candles, and clinking glass. Couples leaned in over plates, the kind of place built for anniversaries, proposals, quiet promises. I stepped inside, let my eyes adjust, and found her in 3 seconds. Corner table by the window, the green dress she knew I liked, the one that hit just above her knees and made her spin in front of the mirror the first time she tried it on. Hair down around her shoulders, a half-finished bottle of red between her and the man sitting across from her. Same guy from the photo, cleaner in person, handsome in a polished yoga instructor way, casual clothes that cost more than he'd admit. He leaned in, elbows on the table, looking at her like she was the only person in the building. She was giving him that soft, focused look I hadn't seen in months. No phones out, no silence, just two people fully present with each other. I walked toward them, not rushing, not stomping, just putting one foot in front of the other, feeling conversations around me falter as people pick up on the shift in air. When I reached their table, I stopped 3 feet away. "Hey, love," I said, steady and clear. "What a coincidence running into you here. I thought you were looking for solitude to find yourself." Her whole body jolted. The color drained out of her face so fast it was like someone flipped a switch. The stem of her wine glass trembled between her fingers. For a moment, she couldn't speak at all. The man turned slowly, confused, knitting his brows. "I'm sorry, who?" I looked at him, held his gaze. "I'm Matt, Jenna's husband." The word landed like a dropped plate. His chair scraped back a couple of inches. He glanced at her, then back at me, like maybe he'd misheard. "Her what?" he asked. "Husband," I repeated. "Legally, currently, unless something changed on the drive down here that I don't know about." He stared at Jenna now, full on, the warmth gone from his face. "Jenna," he said carefully, "you told me you were divorced." There it was, the word that hit both of us differently. Divorced. For me, it was hypothetical, something I'd never let myself picture. For him, it had been a fact he'd built his reality on. Jenna finally found her voice, thin and breaking. "Tyler, this isn't... Matt, what are you doing here?" "Catching up," I said. "Seeing how your solitude is going. Meeting new friends." I turned back to him. "Tyler, right?" He nodded once, jaw clenched. "How long have you two been together?" I asked like I was asking about a construction timeline. He looked at Jenna like she might save him from answering. She didn't. "About 4 months," he said at last. "We met 6 months ago. At my studio. In Portland." "Yoga studio," Jenna blurted, as if that detail helped. "He owns it. I told you about going to classes to deal with stress, Matt." She had. Just not the part where she was sleeping with the instructor and telling him I was out of the picture. "And in all that time," I asked Tyler, "she told you we'd been divorced for, what was it?" "A year," he said quietly. "You said it was finalized last spring, Jenna." Around us, the restaurant had gone mostly silent. Forks paused halfway to mouths. Every person pretending not to stare while absolutely staring. I nodded, feeling something cold settle deeper in my chest. Not surprising anymore, just confirmation. "So," I said, "I'm the husband she forgot to mention, and you're the boyfriend who thought he was safe." Tyler swallowed hard, then pushed his chair back and stood. Jenna whispered my name like it was a plea. The man she'd been building this little secret world with was now looking at her like she was a stranger. "Here's the thing, Jenna," I said, letting my voice stay calm, level. "You wanted to find yourself? Congratulations. You've managed to lose everyone else in the process." I reached down, took off my wedding ring, and set it on the table beside her glass. The metal made a small, clean sound against the wood. "Enjoy your dinner," I said. "You won't be my problem much longer." For a second after I set the ring down, nobody moved. Jenna stared at it like it might explode. Tyler stared at her like he was replaying every conversation they'd ever had, checking for cracks. I let the silence hang. Let her feel the weight of it. You know the thing about liars, Tyler? I said, eyes still on Jenna. They don't customize. If she lied to you about me, she lied to me about you. And odds are, there's more we haven't even tripped over yet. Jenna flinched. Matt, stop. I didn't. She didn't just forget to mention I exist. I went on. She built you a whole fake backstory of my absence. That doesn't start at one lie. That starts way back, when she decided the truth was optional. Tyler opened his mouth, closed it, then looked down as his phone started buzzing on the table. He checked the screen and his face changed. Shit, he muttered. What? Jenna asked, voice sharp with panic. He looked at both of us, then back at his phone. It's my ex-wife. She's pulling into the parking lot. Jenna blinked. Your what? Ex-wife, he said, emphasizing the first part. We've been divorced for 3 years, Jenna. 3. You know that. She shook her head, wild now. No, you never invited me over. You were always busy at the house. I assumed you were still living with her. I never invited you over, he cut in, because I'm renovating my basement and half my place is a construction zone. Not because I've got some secret family stashed in the crawl space. The restaurant doors opened behind me. A woman walked in, mid-30s, stylish, confident in that quiet way. She looked around, spotted Tyler, and headed our way with a confused crease between her brows. He stepped toward her. Megan, hey, thanks for coming. She glanced at me, then at Jenna, then back at him. What's going on? This, he said, gesturing to the table, is Jenna, the woman I've been seeing. She told me she was divorced. His voice hardened. She's not. This is her husband, Matt. Surprise. Jenna made a small sound, somewhere between a gasp and a protest. And just to round it out, he went on, looking at Jenna now. Jenna also apparently thought you and I were still married, Meg, because I'm a guy and don't post my entire life on social media. So clearly that means I'm hiding a wife instead of just existing like a normal adult. Megan's eyes narrowed, first at him, then at Jenna. You told her we were still married? Jenna opened her mouth. Nothing coherent came out. Tyler shook his head slowly, anger cooling into something harder. You know what? I'm done. You used my divorce, his marriage, and everybody's life as props in whatever story you were telling yourself. He turned to me. I'm sorry, man. I didn't know. I believe you, I said. You're just another person she decided the truth was optional with. He nodded once, then looked back at Jenna. Someone who lies this big doesn't really love anyone. They just love the feeling. He grabbed his jacket, touched Megan's elbow. Come on. We're not staying for this. They walked out together, the door shutting behind them with a soft thud that felt louder than any slam. That left Jenna and me standing in the middle of the room, eyes on us from every direction. Candles flickered. Silverware clinked softly as people pretended not to listen. I looked at her, really looked. The panic, the shame, the scrambling. I'm not raising my voice, I said quietly. I'm not throwing anything. I'm not making a scene. I'm just going to be clear. I nodded at the ring on the table. We're done, Jenna. I want a divorce. She whispered my name, reaching out like she might grab my sleeve. I stepped back. You wanted a week to find yourself, I said. Congratulations. I found myself too. I'm a man who doesn't stay where he's lied to. I turned, walked out of the restaurant, and this time I didn't look back. Back in the rental car, doors shut, it finally hit. Not in tears, not in screaming, just a full body shake, like my nervous system had been holding its breath for hours and finally exhaled. I sat there with my hands on the wheel, watching my reflection faint in the windshield. Same face, different life. I drove back to Portland that night. No music, no phone calls, just the hum of the tires and the steady replay of the restaurant, like security footage I'd already seen too many times. Near the airport, I checked into a bland business hotel with beige walls and anonymous carpet. The clerk asked how long I was staying. Just tonight, I said. Got what I came for. In the room, I didn't pace or stare out the window dramatically. I took a shower hot enough to burn, lay down on the stiff bed, and passed out for 9 solid hours. No dreams, just dark. The next morning, I sat in the lobby with bad coffee and my phone on the table, and I did the only thing that made sense to me. I treated it like a project. First call was to a divorce lawyer a colleague had mentioned once over beers during his own mess. I told her the basics. She didn't sound surprised. Betrayal is her Monday. The second call was to the bank. Joint credit cards frozen. Online access changed. I wasn't going to finance her crisis. The third call was to Jenna's parents in Eugene. Her mother cried before I finished the story. "Matt, I'm so sorry. I don't know what's wrong with her. You've always been like a son to us." I listened, detached, like I was eavesdropping on someone else's family. "Thank you," I said. "I just wanted you to hear it from me before she tried to edit." Then time jumped. Jenna didn't contest the divorce. Papers move fast when there's guilt and no defense. Word about Cannon Beach hit her hospital in days. Nurses talk, therapists talk, everyone talks. My coworkers went quiet when she walked into the rooms. Patients picked up on the static. Eventually, she quit. Through mutual contacts, I heard Tyler blocked her on everything. Someone mentioned he was talking to a lawyer about emotional damages. I didn't follow up. Not my battle. I didn't chase closure. I didn't stalk her socials. I let gravity work. Let consequences fall where they were supposed to. I threw myself into a massive infrastructure project that had me flying between cities, living out of hotel rooms, running on schedules and specs instead of feelings. It was easier to manage steel and concrete than the burn marks she'd left behind. 8 months after Cannon Beach, my life looked different in ways that wouldn't impress Instagram but made sense to me. I had a new project downtown, long days buried in schedules, coordination meetings, and site visits. My ring finger was lighter. My apartment was smaller. My silence felt cleaner. One Tuesday between meetings, I ducked into a cafe near the office. I ordered a black coffee, grabbed a window seat, and pulled up some drawings on my tablet. Normal day. No anniversary, no symbolic date. Just Tuesday. I was taking a sip when movement on the sidewalk caught my eye. Jenna, across the street at the crosswalk. I almost didn't recognize her at first. She looked smaller. Not thinner, just folded in. Shoulders hunched in a way I'd never seen when we were together. Hair shorter, scraped back. None of the usual shine or effort. 2 grocery bags hanging from her hands, dragging her arms down. She stared at the red hand on the crosswalk signal like it had personally offended her. I stayed where I was. No flinch. No instinct to duck or hide. I just watched. The light changed. The signal beeped. She stepped off the curb and walked straight past my window, close enough that if I'd lifted my hand, I could have tapped the glass. She didn't look in, didn't scan the cafe. In her world, I didn't exist on that sidewalk. I was 8 months and a lifetime away. As she crossed, I checked myself for damage. Anger? Nothing. The fire had burned out months ago. Grief? A dull echo but no fresh weight. Longing? That one surprised me, empty. No pull. No what if. What I felt, sitting there with a lukewarm coffee in my hand, was simple. Relief. Relief that I was in here and not out there, dragging bags through gray light, carrying the mess she'd made. Relief that the version of me who would have chased her down to talk, to fix, to understand, didn't live in my body anymore. She reached the opposite corner and kept walking, shrinking into the city like any other stranger with her own problems. I watched until she disappeared behind a bus stop. Then I closed my tablet, finished my coffee, tossed the cup, and stepped back out into the street. The clouds were starting to break. Sunlight slipped through in narrow bands, hitting the wet pavement and throwing up that soft golden reflection Seattle gets for about 10 minutes at a time. I turned toward the office and walked into it, feeling like I was finally, firmly on my own side of the street. A year out from Cannon Beach, my life isn't some movie ending. It's just honest. My days are still early alarms, black coffee, traffic, job sites, and meetings. The difference is there's no pretending at home. No unease sitting in the room with me. When I unlock my door at night, the air is neutral. I took every extra project they'd give me after the divorce. Said yes to out-of-town work, to late nights at the office, to being the guy people trusted with the complicated stuff. Not because I was running from what happened, but because building things that actually stand felt like the right response to having my own life collapse. I made new friends in simple ways. Guys from work grabbing a beer, neighbors at the gym, people whose lives didn't revolve around drama. I learned how to cook 2 or 3 decent meals instead of just takeout. I got used to silence without feeling like it meant something was wrong. News about Jenna came in fragments from mutual acquaintances. She quit the hospital, moved to another city. I tried to start fresh. Maybe she did. Maybe she didn't. I stopped asking. One night a friend mentioned seeing a post of hers online, some vague quote about growth and healing. I shrugged. Hope she figures herself out, I said, and realized I meant it. Not out of love, not out of hate, just because her path is none of my concern now. Cannon Beach didn't give her what she wanted. It gave me what I needed. The person who actually found himself wasn't the one who booked a retreat to go stare at the ocean. It was the one who got on a plane, drove into the storm, looked the truth in the face, and walked away instead of begging to be kept. Since then, I've built some hard lines. If your story doesn't match your actions, I believe your actions. If my gut flags a pattern, I don't explain it away to protect my comfort. If someone treats my trust like a playground, they lose access to it. No second tour. My grandfather used to say, better alone than in bad company. I thought it was an old man's excuse for being grumpy. Now I get it. Alone isn't empty. Alone is clean. Will I love again? Probably. I'm not anti-relationship. I'm anti-lies. But next time, it'll be with my eyes wide open, my spine straight, and the quiet knowledge that I've already survived being broken, and I'm the one who did the rebuilding.